I'm going to jump into my presentation. So we're talking about a literary analysis essay, and some of you have done them before. Some of you, most of you, it sounds like have not. But there's a big difference between this and being in just giving me a summary of a book. Okay, so I want it to be really clear. So I'm going to jump in and just be as concise as possible. If you take a look at this, my slideshow here. Um, there it goes. Let me talk about a little bit about kind of with this slide here. I've kind of got like one thing on one side and one thing on the other side, as you can see here on the screen, okay? Um, First of all, on the left-hand side of the screen here, I'll move my cursor here. A literary analysis essay starts with an opinion. That is your thesis. You get to give your opinion about whether it's the themes or the symbols or something about the writing style or something. You're giving your opinion, okay? However, in a plot summary, which is what we're not doing, you usually start from the beginning. So instead of starting with your opinion, you start just from the beginning of the book or the story and you progress to the end, kind of progressively that way, okay? Telling what happened. First this, and then this, and then this, and this happened, okay? In a literary analysis essay, you usually have at least three reasons to support that opinion, especially this assignment that you're doing for me. So you focus on what your opinion is and then your reasons for supporting it, okay? Whereas in a plot summary over here on the right, you simply tell what happened. Again, we're back to just telling the storyline or the plot, okay? And then back here in a literary analysis essay, however, you support each reason with evidence from the text, in this case, from the Boys in the Boat book, okay? And again, however, in a plot summary, you're just focusing on what happened, the plot. That's the storyline, okay? As one college professor put it like this down here in the bottom, the key to writing a literary analysis essay is how well you identify, develop, and support your ideas, okay? So if I jump from this to your opinion here up here, that's the key, is when you're writing literary analysis, in a sense, you're proving something, you're arguing for something, okay? You're making a case for something. You're not just telling what happened in the book, okay? Let me give you a movie example real quick, okay? So if I ask you, I think of a movie you've seen or gone to that maybe you really like the movie, and I ask you, like, why did you like that movie? You know, what were like the three best things about the movie? Was it the characters, or was it the action, or was it the special effects, or were you just really interested? Was there a romance? What did you like about that movie? And you said, well, let me answer that. And then you just told me well, first the movie started off and they were in this Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan in You Got Mail. You know, they both had their jobs and they didn't really know each other at first. And she was, you know, in this one relationship. And you just went through and told the whole story of what happened. And I got to the very end of you telling me what happened in the movie You've Got Mail, which is a fun romantic comedy, by the way, if you like romantic comedies. Um, and you just told me what happened. First this, then this, then this, and this, and this. And at the end, I said, yeah, but why did you like it? And you went, well, I just summarized the movie, right? So you want to avoid that. And so that was one of the corrections I had to make with my former class, was I had to really steer them. Oh no, you're just plot summarizing. All right. So that's a little bit about the difference, okay? You start with an opinion. So let me help you. I'm going to show you my famous spider diagram here. Um, so I highly, highly, highly recommend you use this technique that I taught you 2 weeks ago or so, is to draw a circle like you see right here on the screen. Draw this circle and draw the legs of the spider. Okay, there's 1, 2, and 3. You can put a fourth leg on it. Doesn't really need it because, and then generally in the middle of your, well, actually, you know what? Maybe I should just jump to the actual assignment. I don't know if you haven't read the assignment yet. The assignment is to, in this essay is to, let me put something else on the screen so I can make sure you're focusing, is to write a literary analysis essay explaining 3 reasons why a person should read this book or would enjoy this book, okay? That's your assignment for this week, is to explain reasons why people would enjoy reading this book, Okay. So I'm assuming that you found it favorable. Now, if you absolutely hated the book and you wanted to write a literary analysis about three reasons why you should never read this book, you can. However, I want to warn you that's going to be a lot harder to do that unless you're just really talented and you can give examples out of the book and et cetera, and then criticize them. You could do that, but it'd be a lot easier. This is a New York Times bestseller. It's been, millions of people or thousands of people have bought the book. People are pushing to make it to a movie. So I would suggest taking the favorable side. Okay. So that's the assignment. Write an essay explaining three reasons why a person should read the book. All right. Given that, I would start with a spider diagram. And what I would do is your thesis right here in the middle is readers will really enjoy this book. Okay. And you could word this however you want here, but the basic idea, great book, readers should like it. Okay. Um, Now, what I did was in my email to you on Monday, I sent you a list of, in fact, in the actual assignment directions, I also included this list. Um, some reasons that are pretty common that people address when writing about this book and why they recommend it. Okay. And reason number one here is it teaches interesting facts and stories about history. It teaches about Hitler, about Germany during pre-World War era, before the war. It teaches about the 1936 Olympics. Teaches a lot of interesting things about what it's like to be on the rowing team. You learn a lot about the Great Depression from a firsthand account. There's all kinds of really interesting nuggets of truth that you learn that you never knew before. So it's got history here, okay? A second reason people love this book is the characters go through hard times and they overcome them. So that's kind of they overcome adversity. Think about all the things that Joe went through, okay? So a lot of people like the book because of that. They like to see how he overcomes these things. And then another kind of angle or idea is um, it's a story of the underdog. If you're not from America, the expression underdog is somebody who nobody expects to win. Nobody thinks they have a chance. Everybody's written them off. They're going to lose. It's the story of the University of Washington coming from behind in the Olympics and all that. Nobody thought they'd make it to the Olympics. These kids were farmers' kids and loggers' kids, and they didn't have all the money. They didn't have all these fancy uniforms. That's an underdog. Okay. All right, and the fourth reason is just it's really well written. Daniel Brown is a very vivid. Vivid means specific details. The action just jumps out at you. It's just it feels like you're from the very beginning. You feel like you're watching a movie almost as you're reading this details and the examples and the imagery is very well done. So as a writer, he's an excellent writer, and you can find examples of how he's done a great job writing. Or a fifth example is some people have enjoyed this book because their own lives are similar to the difficult life that Joe lived, and so they have recommended it because they could relate to it. Okay, so those are five common reasons why people recommend this book. There are many others. You do not have to pick any of these five. However, maybe you are absolutely welcome to pick any three of these five. Okay, you may use any of these five. That's fine. So let me give you an example of what I would do if I were at this point. Okay, I've read the book, liked it, and let's say I decided, hey, I like those examples, so I'm going to pick my teacher's examples. I'm going to start with history. Okay, so reason number one you recommend the book is you learn interesting history. What you're going to do is you're going to take and you're going to create these little dashes here and just give examples. Meeting Hitler during the Olympics, stealing a Nazi flag, which happened actually in a different book. Now that I'm thinking about it, just anything you learned about the Great Depression and how poor people were and how they were living in shacks out on the streets, and you could just list them. You don't have to write long sentences, but just list one after another of interesting history that you stands out to you you never knew before. Okay, but you find interesting. The second reason You may have chosen, let's see, the characters overcome adversity. Okay? Adversity means hardship or things that prevent them from succeeding. They manage to overcome them. Okay. And just list some examples of how Joe, example, remember Joe's stepmom who just said, I don't want him around. I want that kid around. And he helped, or his dad, Joe's dad, had to basically kick him out of the house. He overcame that. Went and lived by himself in Sequim, Washington, on a farm, and scrounged around with odd jobs and survived. And do you remember the time when he had this really weird job? He actually liked it, where they're building what was it, the dam, and his job was hanging from a long rope, where there's the cement was, and he liked that and working that way all by himself. And we had all kinds of adversity. Just making it onto the team at the University of Washington rowing team was so hard. And then once they made the team, they had to overcome adversity. So you could give right here example after example after example and just list them there, okay? And then Daniel Brown, that's the author. He makes the action come alive. Maybe that was your third idea. And you could find some examples of quotes and scenes where he really made the action come alive. Okay, so you just list them here, maybe two or three. All right. So what I would do personally is I would fill out this spider diagram first, so that you really think through what are the interesting history examples I want to use. Okay. Now, I want to stop here for a second. It would be really nice. In fact, I'm going to ask you to put at least two or three quotes from the book in your essay. Okay. And that's not a lot. You might have one quote, but then give some other examples just from memory for the history. Find another quote about a character overcoming adversity, and then giving some other examples just from your memory, etc. Okay. So you might use a quote under each of the three reasons why a person should read it. Okay. So that leads me to, I want to talk about your introduction paragraph. Okay. I just want to remind you, because in this course, I kind of built up slower, and we progressed from paragraphs to MLA, incorporating multiple sources in a paragraph, then two paragraphs, and then we got into the 5-paragraph essay. Okay. So in some ways, we haven't written as many essays this quarter, but I think we've done a better job preparing you to do all of this successfully in your essays. Okay. So I want to remind you that in your first introduction paragraph, you need to have a hook. Okay. And you want to that's catching the reader's attention with either a story, a quote, questions, or shocking fact. You know, you could start with a story, did you know that? And then give the example, 1936 Olympics, and give the fact or something that was really fascinating or interesting. Okay. Um, anyway, that's what you want to do, is you want to do some kind of a hook. Okay. All right. Now on the background, I'm going to really spelling it out here for you. Make sure that you give the author, that's Daniel Brown, the title, and always in the introduction and throughout the whole paper, make sure that you write it just like you see on the screen here. Do you see how it's got the boys is capitalized these are smaller words that are, so they don't capitalize them, and then boat is capitalized. Okay. And notice it's in italics, which means it's slanted. That's how it should appear every single time you write the boys in the boat. Notice there's no quotation marks around it. You don't put quotes around the titles of books. You put them around the titles of articles. There's the difference. Okay. All right. And then, so you give the author the title, and then you're going to give a brief summary of the story. Okay. And because you're kind of explaining, it's like the reader's never read the book before. So you're going to brief, okay. And sometimes you can give the setting, the time, what time in history was it, 1920s and 30s, Washington State, some of it during the Great Depression, and maybe the main struggle. I often tell my students, kind of give the setting and the main conflict or struggle in the story. And then, now, by the way, to make that easier for you to write, just kind of some people would call it cheating, but not really. It's something. I used to go, when I had to write these essays, I thought, wow, where would I find a really good, short, concise summary that kind of brings out the action and why this is a great book? Guess where? if you take your book and turn it upside down, look on the back side of it, okay, not upside down, but flip it over. Oftentimes, most of the time, on books, there'll be a nice, concise plot summary on the back cover, or sometimes the inside front cover of a book, and you can look at that and go, "Oh yeah, this is great," and you could use some of those ideas in your right here in your background, where you're kind of setting the setting and the situation, why it's a great book. Okay, so that's a little tip, college tip, is sometimes you can look right there at the back cover and get some great ideas for how to write this part of your introduction, okay? The background. Now, your thesis, which I'm going to talk more about in a moment here, is two parts. It's got your opinion, okay? And in this case, we've already given you that opinion, so that makes it pretty easy. This is a great book. That's the opinion, right? You're not writing, hopefully, but you can, saying it's a horrible book. But there's your opinion, and then you want to have, or the plus, 3 reasons to support it. That's what you're going to have in your thesis, okay? So these are the 3 elements I'm going to see: hook, background, thesis in your introduction. Let's take a look at some example thesis statements that give you that idea of the hook and the um, kind of looking at here. Let me start with a second example here because it's got this line here. Um, Many readers will enjoy this book. Okay, that's that's the opinion right there. Many readers will enjoy this book. Okay, as opposed to many readers will find this book confusing, or many readers will wish they never wasted their time, or whatever. So here's your opinion. Okay, because they will. And then I'm going to give 3 reasons: relate to the struggles of its characters, learn amazing things about history, that's number 2, okay? And then appreciate the exciting writing skills of the author. That's 3. That's 3 reasons why a person would enjoy the book, okay? I do want to point out, however, a little bit about the language. Some of you see me comment on your essays about parallel construction. Parallel construction, okay? It's like if I said this, okay? A bad parallel construction goes like this: I went walking, swimming, and I went walking, swimming, and I talked to my friends. Okay. Now, why that's bad parallel is, since I said walking, swimming, I probably should use and was talking with my friends. Ing, ing, ing. Walking, swimming, talking. Okay. When I change and put ed in there, talked, it kind of ruins what they call a parallel construction. Okay. Now, same general idea here. If you look here, you'll notice that readers will enjoy this book because they will relate. See this word relate? Okay, that's a verb. Okay, they'll relate to the struggles. Look at the next one. They'll learn. There's a verb right there. That's parallel. Relate and learn are both verbs. And they will appreciate. See the word appreciate here? Relate, learn, appreciate. They're all verbs. So there's a parallel construction to that thesis statement. You'll want to do that in yours, okay? And by the way, if you have a question about it, you think, I'm not sure if this is good, send it to me in email. I'll give you feedback, okay? I'd love to do that. Love to help you. All right, let me show you a second example. Those people who enjoy learning fascinating things about history, like characters who overcome hardship and enjoy, okay, writing that comes alive, will love this book, okay? Oh, here it is down here. So here's the opinion. This time I put the opinion at the end of the thesis, but it's there. 2 elements, okay? It's got my opinion. And the green, the yellow, and the red are the 3 means of support, or 3 reasons, okay? And again, let's see, we've got enjoy, like, and then I probably should have, just a piece of advice, I probably should not have used enjoy again here, because you don't want to be redundant here. So I should have used a different verb to keep that parallel construction, okay? Those are 2 good examples of thesis statements that would work for this essay. And you can just look at that. If you're listening to the recording, you can just press pause right here. And then I would recommend this for those of you here live. You might want to, if you kind of know your reasons for your essay, your reasons why you'd recommend the essay, before you leave tonight, you might in the chat box type up your thesis statement, and I'll stick around and help you and then show it to me and say, how does that look? And get my feedback, okay? Likewise, if it's the recording, you can type it up and email it to me. All right. Let me jump to the next slide here, which I've already talked about. Let me make sure I've covered this. Yes, I have, and go on to this. All right. This is a little reminder about MLA citations in this essay, okay? Since you've already given the title and the author in your introduction paragraph, okay, and since most of your quotes are going to come from this book, just give the page number in parentheses after the quote. So literally, you know how when we cited things throughout the whole quarter so far, we would give the author's last name, or if we already gave the author's name in last name in the lead in, then in the citation afterwards would give the title of the article, okay? You don't have to say down here, Boys in the Boat, because we already know that's the title and we already know who the author is because you gave it in the introduction. So every time you use a quote, you could just look just like this in parentheses afterwards, give the page number. Notice I don't say page or P or anything, there's just the number of the page, okay? So that is how you're going to cite things throughout your book. If you use another source, which I've had many students do, they have their own ideas, but they also find a kind of an online review about this book and they want to use something from that, then you want to give in right here in parentheses the author's last name, okay? And if there is no author, there should be, but if there is no author, then the title of the online article. All right. Now, this is just a reminder then. We have learned all quarter that you need to lace your quotes, okay? Every time you're using a quote or a statistic that you got from somewhere, or really information you directly got from somewhere, you should have a lead into it, okay? So that could look like this. Early in the novel, says the Brown, but you should just take out the word the. Early in the novel, Brown writes, okay, so I've told where and who, which is what I taught you to do. Your lead-in should give where and who, okay? And then you're gonna, the A for lace is to add the quote in quotation marks, just like you see up here. I've got these quotes here. And then in this case, you're gonna cite it. It's gonna look just like this, okay? Just the page number. And then you're gonna explain it. Make sure that you tie it back to your thesis point, okay? This right here, this explaining it is really what you want most of your writing to be. You're explaining and you're commenting on and you're telling why this is really great history or what's fascinating about it or bringing something out that really stuck with you. Because most of your writing in an essay is your writing, your ideas, okay? But that's LACE, L-A-C-E. Remember, you're still doing that. So if I was in a class, a student might raise their hand right now and say, well, teacher, what if I'm not quoting something, but I'm just telling something that happened in chapter 6 and why it was an example of Joe overcoming hardship? Do I need to lace it? Sort of, okay? Here's what I mean by sort of. You would definitely want to have a lead in telling, and in chapter 6 in the novel, Joe ran into some very difficult situations. You're kind of leading into telling where it came from, okay? Now, you're not going to have a quote. So what you're going to do is add the incident. You're going to explain what happened, okay? You can cite a page number, but if you're not directly quoting from it, you don't have to, unless unless you give a statistic or a fact that's maybe really widely unknown. Then it would be nice. It would be appropriate to, if you can, find that page number, okay? And then make sure that you explain your example. So again, I'm saying if you're not quoting it, but you're just giving an example from memory, tell kind of where it took place in the story, give the example, and explain. Be sure to explain why it's proving your thesis. Okay. Now, I want to end by this little point right here at the bottom of my screen where it says, back to your thesis. It says, make sure you tie it back to your thesis. Okay. I'm going to go back to my spider here. Okay. And I'm going to tell you that this is going to make your paper pretty easy as far as organizational skills, okay? The outline of your paper is, I want you to imagine here that I've got another leg to my spider here. It just goes right here, my cursor is going. Paragraph by paragraph, this would be your introduction paragraph. It's going to look like we just talked about, just like this, okay? That's the introduction. Paragraph number 2 in your essay is going to be this one right here, all about the history, all about the fascinating things. Now, again, yours might be a different reason, but stay focused on that. And then at the end of that paragraph and at the beginning of that paragraph, point out that it's the hit part of what makes this a great book is the great history. So at the end, that might be your topic sentence. At the end of the paragraph, you're going to have a concluding sentence that again repeats that idea that all of these examples prove that history just comes alive in this story. Okay, so it's like a hamburger. You start with the topic sentence, you give the meat, which is your examples, and then you have the bun at the bottom where you kind of repeat the idea of the topic sentence. Okay. Um, the next paragraph in your essay is going to be all about reason number 2 and how it's got interesting characters. And that's another reason why you should read the book. Okay. Stay focused on this one idea here, the characters. Don't jump around. And then paragraph number 3 will be all about the writing. And then paragraph no, I'm sorry. There's intro. So this makes this paragraph 2, 3, 4, and 5 is a conclusion. Is your conclusion? Okay. And again, a good conclusion does 3 things: repeats the thesis, highlights your main points, ends with a closing thought, like we've been practicing. Okay. All right. I should mention also that between these when you start these paragraphs here, these body paragraphs, with some kind of a transition phrase, like first, a first reason why, and then this one here, secondly, comma, as people will love this book because of the characters. And then this paragraph starts with a transition word like finally, or in addition, people will love the writing. Okay. And even your conclusion should have some kind of a transition phrase. All right. So those are kind of all the basics. One more point, okay? One more real critical point here. Somebody might ask the question, well, teacher, how am I going to write this essay about what a great book this is without telling what happened in the story? Because you said we're not supposed to plot summarize. We're not supposed to just tell what happened in the story. In fact, your beautiful slide here says that in a plot summary you tell what happened, but you don't necessarily do that in literary analysis. All right, this is where it gets a little bit gray, and the expression gray means you actually can tell some things that happen in the story, okay? In fact, you might end up having to do that with all 3 of your points, okay? You have your 3 reasons for it, but each one of those, each time you're telling something that happened in the story, you're tying it back to this main reason, number 1 or 2 or 3, okay? So sometimes in a literary analysis essay, you take a sentence or 2, or 3 to explain what happened in the story, okay? You're in this sense plot summarizing, but only for the purpose of building your case that it had interesting history or interesting characters that overcame or great writing, okay? So hopefully that'll help. That yes, you might do a little bit of plot summarizing, but only in the context of proving one of these 3 points. Uno, dos, tres. Okay. All right. I hope that helps. I'm going to turn off my recording and take some questions from those students who are here live.